Could you, the average Joe, survive in the kingdom of Hyrule? Let's say hypothetically you were suddenly teleported to Echoes of Wisdom's version of Hyrule. Where would you go? What would you eat? Where could you stay? And what could you beat? And is it even possible to survive in a world that's being devoured by an eldritch being beyond your imagination? Well, let me be your guide, and we'll find out. So there you are in your living room. You just beat Echoes of Wisdom for the first time. You were originally put off by the chibi art style, but it grew on you as you played. Overall, you enjoyed your experience, so much so that you haven't had enough. You want to play it again, but just as you start a new save file, you are sucked into the game. You find yourself in the middle of Hyrule Village, in the western part of Hyrule to be specific. You get up and look around. The only things you have on you are the clothes you were wearing before you got sucked into the game, a map of Hyrule that mysteriously appeared in your pocket, and a backpack. Nearby, you can also see a rod that looks very similar to the one Zelda had in the game. Out of it appears a sprite, similar to Tri, with a few shards flowing behind it. It doesn't speak, but it seems to want to follow you. So now, where do you go from here? You may have been transported into a game, but your body is still that of a human. Thus, you need to worry about your basic needs, those being food, clothing, shelter, money, and weapons. Luckily for you, most of those things can be found in nearby areas. As for food, that can be acquired from the store that's located at the top right of Hyrule Village. But that leaves the question, how are you going to purchase the food if you're flat broke? Well, there's a solution to that. What if I told you there was a technique that could allow you to make an infinite amount of money? A technique so old and ancient that it's been in almost every Zelda game before this one. Heck, you've probably used it in real life. And it's called mowing the lawn.
Yes, really?
But unlike in reality where your parents and neighbors would give you chump change, in the game you could potentially make hundreds, if not thousands if you're dedicated enough, from just cutting grass. All jokes aside though, this is a really effective way to build up your capital and will allow you to acquire the starting supplies you need such as food and shelter, and native clothes so that you and your disgusting ripped jeans don't stand out too much. Now, that leaves weaponry. You may have your own sprite which will allow you to use the echoes of the monsters you defeat, but the keyword here is defeat. You have to defeat the monsters before you can turn them into echoes. How are you gonna do that? With your bare hands? I think we all know how that's gonna go. So you're gonna need weapons. Luckily for you, there's a weaponsmith who lives nearby called Blueberry. You should make your way to his house. Yo, editing me here, I just realized I didn't make it clear, but Zelda is also in the game with you. You don't really replace her, she's just always one regional quest ahead of you or teleporting around, so you can't interact with her in this scenario. In fact, you arrive after she clears the rift in this area, so please don't leave a comment about how you would survive by finding Zelda and explaining the plot to her. Okay, bye. When you arrive at his house, you should ask him for any spare weapons he might have lying around. He has tons, so I'm sure he'd be willing to part with some of them. Now that you have your weapons, it's time to start building your Echo army. Echoes can be acquired in every corner of Hyrule from the various monsters that inhabit the land, some being very broken while others are more of a danger to themselves. We've got a lot of familiar faces as well as some returning ones. Heck, some of these guys have been around since the Heian era. And it's not even just the monsters that can be turned into echoes. Many objects can too, such as trampolines, tables, literal meat, and the most broken object in the game, the bed. You've got some broken bones? Bed. You need to reach something high up? Bed. You want to fly? Bed. You're failing marriage? Guess what? Bed. So as you can tell, echoes are going to be extremely useful for your survival and traversal. I would recommend starting off small by taking out a few slimes. Don't worry, Rimuru won't be mad at you, and you can use them to take out some of the spear-wielding moblins in the area. But be careful though, it would only take one well-placed spear to end you. But you know what won't end you? Hitting that like and subscribe button. There is also an extremely powerful echo in this cave that if obtained will literally mow down the competition, and it's called a P-hat, but it's tough, so think carefully before you challenge it. If you want to just survive in Hyrule, you could just stay here. The monsters in this area aren't too dangerous and you could easily make a living by mowing some grass. But if you want to thrive, you're going to have to venture deeper into the land of Hyrule. And what better place to go than the crown jewel of Hyrule itself, Hyrule Castle. Now that you've acquired a basic arsenal of echoes and supplies, it's time to head to Hyrule Castle. The path to Hyrule Castle is full of monsters, so tread carefully. Use your echoes and weapons to take down some of the opposing monsters, and use this chance to build up your repertoire of echoes. Specifically, focus on the Crawlula Echo, which is extremely broken as it allows you to climb on most surfaces, letting you reach places that you might have otherwise been unable to. As you continue down the path to Hyrule Castle, you'll see some wanted posters with a very, unique art style. Seriously, whoever drew this needs to be thrown in the rifts, but it's none of your business. So, continue down the path until you arrive at Hyrule Castle. Some of you are probably asking, why would you want to come to Hyrule Castle? Hasn't it been taken over by a bunch of imposters? Well, the thing is, the imposters are only looking for Zelda, and the last time I checked, you weren't her, so you won't be targeted. As long as you stay outside the main castle, you'll be fine. As for why you want to come here, well, Hyrule Castle's store contains many supplies that you can use, but in particular, it sells a piece of gear called the Stone Ankle that greatly reduces the knockback effects of enemies. You wouldn't want a slime to knock you off a cliff, would you? So I would recommend you buy this. You could also request the guards to give you some basic training, as well as potentially acquire some armor. But you wouldn't want to stay for too long because there's a chance that one of the imposters might see your sprite and decide to capture you. That leaves the question, where do you go once you're done with Hyrule Castle? You are currently at the center of Hyrule, which means you can easily travel in any direction you wish. But that leaves the question, which direction should you head in? Let's look at your options. In the north, you have Hebra Mountain and the Eternal Forest. Both horrible options at the moment. Hebra Mountain is a frozen wasteland that will literally put you on ice. And the Eternal Forest? Well, it has him. I bet I just gave a bunch of you PTSD. In the east, there are the Jabal Waters. It's a decent option, but the fact that 90% of it is made out of water will make it hard for you to traverse, especially if you don't know how to swim. The south is just where you started, so unless you decide to go back to the relative safety of the Saffron Forest, don't go back in that direction. The west is where all the good stuff is, like Kakariko Village. I would recommend heading there as it is the second biggest Hylian settlement and could potentially provide you with some useful resources. Now that you know where you're going, it's time to head out. The road to Kakariko Village is a long and dangerous one because now not only do you have to worry about attacks from the ground, but also attacks from above. Use this time to further increase your arsenal of echoes and get more comfortable with combat. Your main threat during your travels is the various rifts that appear randomly throughout the land. There is a decent chance you might fall into one of them, or one of them might fall on you. The rifts can produce shadows that will chase you, and if they catch up to you, they will spawn some monsters. These monsters don't leave behind any echoes when defeated, so there is no point in fighting them. If you ever encounter them, run unless that option is not available. About halfway to Kakariko Village, you will come across this ranch. You should visit it because someone very important lives here. A being of immense power, prestige, omnipresence, and wisdom. The Stamp Man. Jokes aside, the real reason why you would want to come here is that the stable rents out horses, which will help you traverse the land of Hyrule much faster than you would on foot. You might have to pay or do a few favors for the ranch owner, but I think the reward is worth it. Use your newly acquired horse to speed down the remaining road until you arrive at Kakariko Village. You finally arrived at Kakariko Village, and there's a lot to do. The first thing you'll want to do is head to the store to resupply or sell some of the things you don't need. You might also want to purchase the climbing band if you have the rupees for it, as it will come in handy in the future. Next, you should talk to this lady whose cuckoos have gone missing. You should help her get them back, but be careful on how you handle them unless you want to die a death by 1,000 pecks. Which is exactly what's gonna happen to you if you don't peck that like and subscribe button now. After you cover her cuckoos, she'll give you a fairy jar which will allow you to capture fairies and use them to grant you extra lives. That sounds pretty dark now that I say it out loud. Next, head over to the Slumber Dojo where they will help you hone your abilities for both your melee and echo skills. You can also get your hands on a katana and some clean drip. The last thing you'll want to do here is talk to this business scrub near the entrance. He'll mix some of your supplies to create some smoothies that will grant you various buffs depending on the ingredients you use. This is also key to another money glitch, but I'll get to that later. When you're done with Kakariko Village, you might want to head to the Goron Village since it's so close. You have two options, either use the climbing band that you bought to gradually make your way up the volcano, facing danger at every turn, Or you could just do this. Seriously, why is this even a thing? Once you reach the top of Eldin Volcano, you'll see the entrance to the Goron village. Upon entering, you'll find some Gorons panicking because a rift has appeared inside their village, especially this kid who's crying because his dad has gone missing. Wait a second, haven't we seen this somewhere before? Anyway, whatever's going on here is none of your business. Let Zelda handle it and prioritize your survival. Gather whatever you can from the village and head back down the volcano. Next, I would recommend going to the Gerudo Desert, so grab your sunscreen and let's go. Welcome to Gerudo Desert, a land of scorching heat and drowning sands. So, why would you want to come here? Well, it's because of this oasis, specifically the Tough Mango Plant Lab. Remember how I mentioned there was another infinite money glitch? Well, this is part of it. The lady who owns the lab has a challenge called Mango Rush, where the goal is to harvest as many mangoes as possible within the time limit. There are 3 levels, each one more challenging than the last. The reason why you would want to complete these challenges is to gather a ton of mangoes, which can be turned into smoothies that sell for a lot when mixed with certain ingredients. When you do the math, you'll realize that the rupees you invest in making the smoothies and participating in the mini games are tiny compared to the gains, and there's no limit. Do this a few times and you'll never have to worry about rupees again. Also, by completing all the courses, you'll receive the dancing attire, which increases your spin radius and keeps you cool in the desert. Great if you're a girl, but if you're a boy, well, it's time to embrace your inner twink. Now that you're Hyrule's richest person, head to the nearby Gerudo town to spend some of those rupees. But be careful though, the path is plagued with scorpions, sand sharks, and the baby fans. Let's go! Once you arrive at Gerudo town, head over to the store as usual, because they have a lot of useful items that will be very helpful in the future. Like warm peppers, when you turn them into smoothies, they will allow you to traverse colder environments like the Hyrule Mountains. They also sell Gerudo sandals, which let you walk on quicksand instead of, drowning in it. By this point, Hyrule is your oyster. You've got a large amount of supplies, fast modes of transportation, and a massive arsenal of echoes. You can go anywhere from here, whether that be the tropical Jabu waters to visit the 2 Zora villages for some more gear and smoothie ingredients, or the Faron wetlands, home to the cotton candy obsessed Deku scrubs. Personally, I wouldn't recommend going there. The Deku scrubs are extremely annoying and obnoxious, and are prone to wrongfully imprisoning people. They are literally the worst part about this game. I hate them so much. Anyway, after you're done exploring, head to the Hyrule Mountains. Why? Well, as Zelda progresses, the frequency of rifts appearing in Hyrule will increase, and the chances of you getting caught up in one of these are extremely high. However, Hyrule Mountain has low rift activity, so it's one of the safer areas as long as you stock up on plenty of cold resistance smoothies. Once you're near the top of the mountain, you'll come across an igloo belonging to a yeti named Kondi. Don't let his size fool you, he's actually a big softie. If you ask him to stay, he definitely won't turn you away. He's lonely and needs the company. Now all you have to do is wait for Zelda to defeat Null and save Hyrule. You don't need to get involved, because after all, what's our motto? Hey, thanks for making it to the end. If you liked this video and want to see more, please check out the channel. I've made more survival videos on various other Zelda games, or you could just press this video right here. Anyway, thanks for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.